Hi, everybody. Jack O'Malley, Friday night, coming to you live from the road. It's been a crazy day. I started it in Sutton's Bay, talking with some education folks about how schools are doing and that sort of thing. And then I finished it in Ludington, talking to some business folks about how things are going. And just a couple of stops in between there. So I drove the length of the 101st basically today. So, and it is a beautiful district on a gorgeous fall day. So I just want to talk to you about a couple things. I had some notes down, but then some news broke on the day that I thought you might have heard about, and I'll give you my thoughts on. As always, you can think what you want. I'm just telling you how I see it. All right. We'll start here, and it leads into some news from today. With the election coming up now, 6 weeks away, whatever it is. There's been some studies, and not studies, but some checking on things, and it's interesting to see where the mail-in ballot requests are coming from. We still refer to them as absentee ballots, but technically I don't think they really are anymore. It's just the mail-in ballot, but we still refer to them as absentee, so I'll continue as well. Leelanau and Oakland counties, two of the state's highest income and best educated counties, are requesting absentee voter ballots at a higher rate than the rest of Michigan's other counties. That according to numbers today or yesterday released by the Secretary of State. In fact, all 6 of Michigan counties with the highest percentage of AV requests for the November general election are also among the top 6 in medium household incomes. Of the 10 Michigan counties with the highest requests, 8 are on the highest income list. Nearly 44% of the 20,963 registered voters in Leelanau County, home to Glen Arbor, Leland, and Sleeping Bear Dunes, have requested an AV ballot for November 3rd. That is the 101st. Meanwhile, 38.3% of Oakland County voters have asked for a ballot. The counties requesting the highest number of absentee ballots after these two are Grand Traverse, Washtenaw, Ingham, Livingston, Benzie, Eaton, Benzie, part of the 101st, Ottawa, and Clinton. Overall, 2.284 million absentee ballots have been requested in the run-up to the general election. A total of 47,279 ballots already have been issued, according to the Secretary of State. Now, that poses an interesting situation, and today, I think it was the Court of Claims judge, ruled that people will have 14 days after the election to get their absentee ballots in. I don't agree with that. Now, we can talk about all sorts of things about mail-in balloting, but I want to focus on something here, and it's personal responsibility. I know we don't talk about that much anymore, but personal responsibility. So I know that there's a glut and will be a glut of these mail-in ballots. I understand that. But I do think rules are rules, and polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If I get to the poll day of, in person, at 8:10, they're not going to let me in. Why? Because I didn't get there on time. So now I know someone can argue, well, there's a lot of mail and there's a lot of this and it could be pushed back. Okay, I get that. So let me start here. At Christmas, when you want to get a package to a loved one or you want to get that card to a loved one, what do they tell you to do? I pause for effect. They tell you to mail early. So, if you ask for a mail-in ballot, I'm going to shock a lot of people. It's your responsibility to get it in on time. I pause for effect. So, what does that mean? Jack, you're being cruel and mean. People will get their ballots, and if it gets in late, it needs to be counted. How about you take some personal responsibility? You get your mail-in ballot, and you vote, and you return it. Mail it early. If you wait until the last minute to request that mail-in ballot, maybe you should just go vote in person. Here's another crazy thought. Your job is to get that ballot in. So, you don't leave the ballot sitting on the counter along with the bread crumbs and the peanut butter knife sitting there. You get it and you mail it in. Or, better yet, you don't trust the mail for whatever reason. You take your absentee ballot and you go and deliver it to the clerk's office. It is your responsibility to get your vote in, just like it will be my responsibility to get my lazy butt out of bed on November 3rd and go to the poll and vote between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. I know it's a radical thought, and I'm a mean-hearted son of a gun because I'm asking someone to actually do their civic duty and get their ballot in on time. So I would suggest that the Secretary of State, who has spent millions of federal dollars to mail people and say, request your ballot, why doesn't she spend some of that money on public service announcements that say, mail it early, get it in early, or deliver it to your clerk prior to the election? Personal responsibility. Novel idea. Moving on. People have asked me to explain the Unlock Michigan process. What happens? All right. I've talked about it before, but I'll try and do it the best I can. And I might not have all of this right, but they are over 400,000 signatures. They are shooting for 500,000 signatures. They need 340,000 to be valid. As I understand it, they're doing their checking ahead, and these ballots are coming in at like 92% accurate. So if they get the 500,000, which I'm sure they will, the odds of this having 340 valid signatures, 400,000 valid signatures is extremely high. So now the question is, will the Secretary of State slow walk this, et cetera, et cetera? Well, there's several schools of thought there. She could. But another question is, let's say she slow walks it and it goes to after the election and into next year. If there's 340,000 valid signatures, which there probably will be, does the governor really want that ballot initiative on the ballot where she's running for re-election? Probably not. So who knows what the Secretary of State will do. There are, as I understand it, talking to some folks who are more knowledgeable, there are some legal actions that could be taken. But the statute for verifying a ballot proposal does not have a timeline. Just an FYI. So we'll see how that all plays out. A couple of other things here. Just on the COVID front here. 4 out of 5 counties with the largest percentage of COVID increase per capita have what in common? I pause for you to think about it. 4 out of the 5 counties with the largest percentage of COVID increase, like in the last month, have what in common? College universities, college campuses. Isabella has CMU, Ingham, MSU. Menominee is third. They're the oddball in the group. Houghton has Michigan Tech, and Ottawa has Grand Valley. Now, as of Thursday, there were 829 new cases, 9 deaths, but 5 were from previous, and they were added to, so 4 deaths, if you will. My point is this. It's not good that these college campuses have these viruses. Let me say it. They're dumb kids who are partying and getting together, which is foolish, but that's what happens on college campuses. We've got to try and work with that. But I think what's interesting is, again, is COVID a death sentence? Have we flattened the curve? Are hospitals being taxed? In these 5 counties, the answer is no. No, the hospitals are not being taxed. Yes, these are positive cases. Kids are sick, whatever the case may be, but they're not flooding the hospitals. They're not on ventilators, and they're not dying. So again, when we look at our COVID response, where are we at? And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So that's important, I think, as we talk about this. All right, let's see, where do I want to go next? All right, I'll go to this one. There is a big discussion because funerals are being held, they're indoor, they're being held to 10 people. The funeral directors are fighting back, and they are saying, look, let us hold funerals of more than 10 people. And this is a good example of balance. I've talked about it before. Early on, we didn't know what we were dealing with. But as you move forward, you have to manage things differently. And Director Gordon of DHHS on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it was, Wednesday in our committee, kept talking about they made decisions to save lives. I get that and I appreciate that. I really do. But at what point do we move through this pandemic and the management of it? Do we start to say we've got to balance death, which is on the decline, and our quality of life? And here's something that I would say to the director. As sure as breathing, part of life is death. And when someone passes, for whatever reason, age, illness, we as humans want to mourn their loss. And this is another example of where our government has lost sight. And we need to allow and let people choose. If they don't want to go to a funeral with 50 or 100 people, they don't have to. But if those people want to go and pay their respects, they should be allowed. And this is where our governor and our Department of Health and Human Services and our doctors and our data are out of whack, out of balance. This is a great example of that. We have got to also take into consideration people's suffering, people's isolation, people's grief. But for whatever reason, our government, which isn't that compassionate, they want to say they're compassionate, but balance-wise, they're not. This is something we need to all consider. So again, I'd say to those people who believe the governor has handled everything appropriately and perfectly with the COVID management, I point to funerals as an example where she's not. I'll give you another. Talk about confusing, arbitrary. Nobody knows what the HE double toothpicks is going on. Executive Order 181. 181 micromanaging executive orders was put out on the state's website. No press release, no nothing. And it has confused a lot of people. It announced that indoor gatherings are not to be more than 10 people. Well, that confused a whole lot of people. Up north, Region 6 and 8, people were under the impression that you could be at 25% indoor or 250 people. And on our state's frequently asked question page, it states, regions in Phase 5 of the Governor's Safe Start Plan says places of public accommodation can have indoor social gatherings and events limited to 25% max capacity or 250 people, whichever is smaller. But she slides out without a press release that Executive Order 181 is reiterating Executive Order 27 or 38 or 127, whatever the heck it was. Oh, no, it's only supposed to be 10. But yet, on the frequently asked question page, regions in Phase 5 can be 25% or 250 people. So, once again, micromanagement of our state in this COVID pandemic. So, again, all the people who think she's out of whack are already saying, Jack, you do something about it, impeach her. Well, that ain't going to work. But to those people in the middle, start to realize that our governor needs to change course. And if you haven't signed the Unlock petition, you need to, because no one, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, Martian, whatever, should not have unilateral power in the United States of America. That's not how our system works. The governor should need to deal with the legislature and not lock us out. So there you go. Really a whole lot of crap in the last couple of days. I'll be honest with you. I think, again, I'll go back to the judge. Giving people 2 weeks after an election, that's not how our rules are set up. And again, personal responsibility. Mail early. Get your ballot in. So, I'm probably thought of as a hard-hearted son of a gun. But I just try to look at things practically and reasonably. It's getting late. I'm going to go. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again on Monday. Who knows what will have happened between now and then? Take care, everybody.